Hey, what's going on, guys? Hope that everyone will be fine, and welcome back to another crash course. So in this video I'm going to explain to you about the HTML, and HTML is the most basic, which helps the beginners to understand about the web development, the basic structure, right? So I'm going to explain you everything from the scratch, and if you have no idea before that, or you want to learn something for new as a refresher or for the intermediate, so you can carry on and you can choose the topic which you want to improve more, right? So let's move to the slide number 2, and we will discuss here what we will cover in this course. So we will learn about what actually is HTML. So HTML is a hypertext markup language, and we will learn about the tags and the attributes. There are multiple tags that we will use in this course, and we will learn about the page structure, about the structure of the whole doc type, which includes the header, which includes the body, and everything that includes in that. Next, we have the meta tags, which are very important as far as search engine optimization. We will learn for few about some content like description and the content, and which are very useful feature, which includes which help us to work for the SEO, right, which is a search engine optimization, which we will not is the part of this course, but we will still learn about something about it. Next, we have our forms and the inputs. So forms and inputs is very important. It's a very important input fields where we can create the layout for different forms, and we can add the values, and definitely we are not storing those values dynamically, where we need some server-side language, but we will learn about how we can create the layout of different input fields, input numbers, and some select boxes, check boxes, and much more, right? So next we have our table and list. So we will learn about how we can create the tables, and we will learn about list. So there are multiple lists, like we have lists on an ordered list, we have ordered list. So that's what we can learn in this section. Next, we have our block versus the inline. So there are some elements or tags which are block in the inline. So we will learn about that. And next, we have links and the images. So we will learn about the internal and the external links and the images with some attributes. So next, we have our div span and the ID and the class. So will learn about the divisions. We will learn about the ID and class, the purpose of it, and it will be very much useful when we are doing some styling, which we will learn in the next course for the CSS. So next, the last we have we'll learn about the HTML semantic tags like section. We have some strong tags. So these are all the semantic tags which we will discuss everything in this course. So I believe that's very much for the slides. So let's jump in and get started here. Alright guys, so welcome back here. So I'm using here a Visual Studio Code as my text editor. You can use Sublime Text or any text editor, but the preference I would give you for using the Visual Studio Code, because it provides you a ton of the extensions and a lot of features which are very much useful, and a lot of shortcuts that can help you in typing your code, right? So I'm using Visual Studio Code, and I always prefer that. So you can install the Visual Studio Code by simply going to the code.visualstudio.com, or you can download for the Windows, or you can go down and you can install for the Mac or Ubuntu, whatever the platform you are using, right? So it's a very basic installation. Alright, so once you're done with the installation, so I have created a folder on my desktop with the name of html_crash_course. So I'm going to create here a file with the name of index.html. Alright, so soon I click on the index.html, and you can see the file is created. So and you can also see that the type is the HTML file, or if you want to check its extension, all you can go here inside your view and options, and you can also file name extension if you want to click. So you can see now I have my extension with the name of .html, and it's really helpful for you to see if you have multiple extensions installed, right? So we have, in our case, we are using with the HTML, so we have the extension with the name of .html. So there are multiple ways you can open up the file. You can open up the blank file because there is nothing inside the code. So you can open up with the Google Chrome by simply going and clicking on it, and you see that on the that's your URL, that's a path where you have created, and the whole directory and the name of the file in our case is which is index.html. All right, so I want to show you both ways. I just want to explain you can also run with your extension. If you haven't installed, you cannot see that open with a live server. So in order to install that, all you need to do is to simply click on these extensions, and you need to just simply type here live server, and you can see I have already installed. So in your case, you can see the install option, and once you install it, so your live server will be installed, and you can simply right click on it and click on the open with the live server, and that's going to open up automatically. So I'm going to open up on my Google Chrome, so I'm going to paste it right up here. So once you just simply click on the right click, you see that 127.0.0.1, basically this is the local host, right? So this is your local server, and this is the port number 5500, and this is the name of your file, right? So the purpose of using the live extension, which helps you to whatever you change on your text editor, so it will automatically it will change runtime. All right, so let's do here is to just make that side by side so you can see properly all the changes. So let me just make this screen. All right, so so that looks fine, and I'm just going to close that up, and let's start from the very basics. So here we'll start from the very basic HTML tags and the elements. So let's create here a file. We created a file with the name of index.html, and so I'm going to start with the h1. So we have our h1. Let me make this larger, and this browser is fine. Okay, so I'm going to write here hello world, and soon I press enter, and you could see that my hello world appears on my browser. So as soon as I change something, let's suppose if I type here 1 and save it, and I don't know why my live server is not working, so I'm going to run that again and see. So let's do that again and check this out, and if I just try to press enter, so live reload is not possible without body or head tags. So keep remember that you can only run the live server when you have your doc type HTML in the body. So what actually it's we will discuss about later. So you see as long as I refresh it, so this is our hello world, right? Next we have our paragraph tags, which is basically a P, and once I click P and tab, you see we have the closing and the opening tag for the paragraph. So there are some elements which don't have the closing tags, so we will look over it in the coming sections. So basically paragraph has the closing tag. So let's write here something. So I am web developer. So if I just save it and refresh this, so you see that we have our paragraph text written on here, right? So basically this is the web developer paragraph tags, right? Okay, so we can also do one more thing here is we can also write here comments. So what are comments? So if I just want to define here a very simple comment, so I need to have my angle bracket and my explanation mark and dash dash. You see that this appears on your text editor. So whatever I type here, so just if I write here comments, and if I try to save it and refresh this, you see nothing appears on the browser. And the reason is basically the comments are very much helpful for defining your individual section. That individual section is for what reason. So comments really makes your code really much readable. So that is also the main important feature of it. So let's go into your browser, and once I click here, once I type Control U, and you see that you can now see the comments. So basically this is the view source. So everything you see that now we have our h1 tags. It's just like a code that you can write on your text editor. although the difference is that now we can see on our with the help of view source, and which comprises of all the paragraph and the h1. But in case of your browser readability, your alt tags hide, and it works according to the feature that our browser provides. All right, so this is very much it for it, and now let's go and start with the new thing. So I'm going to create here something which is known as doc type. So as long as I type doc type and press enter, so this is going to get here doc type HTML. So doc type HTML, it tells the browser what type of document it is, because browser can read HTML5 and XHTML, which also has different variations. So later on we use XHTML, or we can use 4.0.1. so it comprises of different variations, but in our case we are using a simple doc type HTML, and which is HTML5, which makes things a lot much easier for us, right? So it is basically the core fundamental mandatory structure for the HTML doc type. All right, so next we have our HTML, and if I just want to type here HTML, opening and the closing tag. So everything you see inside this HTML tag, whatever you type inside here, so this will be all visible to our browser, right? So if I just save it and try to refresh this, you see nothing appears over here, right? And the reason is that because we have defined no body, we have defined nothing inside our HTML tags. So just after the HTML, you need to keep remember that structure. So right after the HTML, I'm going to bring here the something which is known as head tags, and inside head tags you can have like, suppose if I just want to give my title in, and let's give it here my first website. If I just try to save it, and you see nothing appears on the browser. So basically this title is something which you can see on the top of your tab. So you can now see it's your title of the page, so my first website. All right, so next after the head tags we have something which is known as body. So basically your complete browser have its complete body, where you can write everything inside here. So let's write here some h1 just like we did before, so hello world. And if I just try to save it, as now you can see, if I just simply save it, it will change on runtime. I don't need to refresh my page because of the extensions that we have installed. So if I type here 1, and you can see now we have 1, and the reason why, because we have now complete structure of the HTML, which provides the complete doc type, right? Next we can also type here some paragraph tags. So let's give it here the P, and you can simply press enter, or you can simply type tab, and this gonna give you the opening and the closing tab. So let's write here I am web developer. So if I just saves it, and you can see now everything works and appears on it, right? So that's very much for the live server, and very much it for the simple basic structure. So now we can see about some very important meta tags. So we write meta tags inside our HTML and inside our head tags. Sorry about that. So we can write the meta tags inside the head tags. But before I should jump directly on it, you can see also another shortcut. So I'm going to remove everything from here and saves it. So there is another feature which Visual Studio Code provides. So if I just simply type here shift and press exclamation mark, and you can simply type tab, and you can see now everything appears on the basic structure of the HTML tag appears on our text editor. So basically that includes the doc type HTML. So we will already discuss about that. So doc type is basically tells the browser what type of document it is. And next we have our meta tags. So meta tags are basically the snippets of text that describes a page content. So the meta tags don't appears on the page itself, but only in the page or the source code. So you can see whatever we put here inside the head tags, you can't see on the browser, on the body, and especially while we are adding the meta tags. So you can see, if I want to give you an example, let's go inside the open up some website. So I'm going to go to the Google, and let's type here Charisma Science, press enter, and you see that basically this Charisma Science, everything that I includes, So let's give it and open up that. All right, so you can see this is the title science shop. So this is basically your title, and everything which appears right here, it's basically your description. So keep remember that this is your title and this is your basically description, right? So these are all the search engines, and we will not talk about a lot about it because I'm not really expert, but you can just understand that basically we will use those meta tags inside the head and learn about that, right? So that's basically the understanding of the basic. All right, so just after that you can also use here HTML lang. Basically this is the language, which is English, en for the English. And next we have our UTF-8, which is basically the Unicode, which enables some special characters. So this is basically the character sets of UTF-8. And if you just remove it, and it will still works, right? So it's just a convention, right? Next we have our meta name equal to viewport, and it has some attributes which include width, device touch, width. So if you have using the website on different devices like mobile phones, so to scale that up, so you use some devices we can scale on 1.0, and the content vary according to the screen size. So that's very much important, where you can add the content, and it will change the width according to the size. So that's for the UTF-8. I already discussed that it's a Unicode based encoding, such as UTF-8 can support any languages and can accommodate pages and form in any mixture of those languages. All right, so inside the body, we are going to do first thing is let's add some description. So meta tag, or oops, sorry, not inside the body, it should be inside your head tag. So let's give it here meta, and you put some tab. Let's give it here the description. So for the description, you can simply add an attribute with the name of content. So let's give it here, this is my description. So this is for the description. Next you can give some keywords like for the keywords, so there are basically some keywords that you can search for your website. So how you want to give, you can give multiple keywords, like let's suppose if your company is basically IT, so you can simply type here IT, or you can give next one, you can also define here web design, you can give here web development. So as much you can define your keywords depending on that, right? And that's very much for it, right? So we have our title. Let's give it the title to be my web app. All right, saves it, and you can see as long as I just yeah, now it's fine. Okay, so now we have our web app. So this is for our basic meta tags. Now let's look for some typography. So what is typography? So let's give it some headings. I'm gonna do here is first give my headings as a comment this out first. So if I just simply give here, and let's give it here headings, I just comment this set, and let's give it here first h1. Let's give it here heading 1. So what I'm gonna do here, if you can just simply click on the h1, press the control shift, or that's fine. Okay, now we are looking for the h2. So let's give it here heading 2. Next we have our h3. Let's give it heading 3, h4. Let's give it h5, h6. So if I just try to save it, and you can see the h1, which is the h1 heading 1. So it's more the size of the font is large and strong. So basically this is the heading 1, this is the heading 2, and as long as it goes to h6, it becomes smaller, right? So this is basically a simple h6 heading. So you can only use h6. If I just try to use here h7, which actually not exists. So my VS Code automatically not provides that. So basically there are only 6 tags, right? So all right, so now let's look for the paragraphs tags. So let's give it the comment here. All right, so in case of the paragraph, so I just need to open it with the live server. All right, so now let's look for the paragraphs. So I just need to command this out first. So let's write here paragraphs. So paragraphs are very much similar as I've shown before. They are just very simple tags which has the opening and the closing tags. And if I just need to write here, I am web developer, and as long as I save it, and you can see that it's pop up on a browser, right? So I'm a web developer, and the good thing about paragraphs are that it can really much helpful when you have a long sentence or words, a lot of words. So you probably will use paragraph for that, right? So the Visual Studio Code provide here one of the very good feature that if I just only type here lorem and tab, or you can press enter, so you can see you will see that there is a bunch of dummy tags here, so you can also pop up on your screen, right? So that's also the good feature that VS Code provides you. Plus you can also do one more stuff, that if I just want to write here lorem, and if I just type here 20 and tab, and it will insert 20 words for you, right? So if I can save it, and you can see on your browser, right? So let's say if I just create another paragraph tag and give it a 20 word, and if I just I just give it 201, which is very much. So I just want to give it 20 and saves it, and you can see there is a space here, right? So there is a margin on top. So that's basically the paragraphs provide you. You can use here other tags like BR, which is a break tag, which I'm going to show you now. So but just keep remember that if you want to have some space, you can put some individual paragraph. But there is one more other ways that if you can bring here, like I just want to close these P tags from here, and if I just try to save it and put this inside the same P paragraph tags, let's suppose if I just give it here right like this, and you can see now it just comes next to the different paragraph. Now I just give it here a lot of spaces, as much space I just want to give here. It doesn't mean that it will show up on the browser, because it will remain the same. So in case if you need to put some to the separate line, you can do one more thing here, like you can give here the oops, what happened here, right? So let's suppose if I want to, let's just make that, yeah, okay. So if I just save it, you see there is no difference. But if once I use there a break tag and press press enter, and now you can see now from this tag, from lorem ipsum dollar, so you can see now it comes to the next line, right? So if I just want to add one more BR, so soon I just need to add a BR, it will give me the space, right? So but this is actually not the good way of doing it, because we can do that kind of stuff with using CSS, but we are just giving you an idea that you can do things like that. But again, this is not the recommended way of doing it, right? So I don't prefer of using BR here, right? So just close that and just give it the 2 breaks for now. All right, so this is for the break here. And if I just need to add some styling like italic, I can use here another tag which is known as the EM. So let's give it here EM and put that here. So EM means that it's for emphasis, and now you can see that we can see some italic kind of style, right, which you can do with the CSS, but again, this is not the recommended way of doing it. All right, so now we can do also one more stuff here, like if I just want to have my lorem text inside it, and I want to have some HR, which means that it will have the horizontal row, and you can see on the top there is a line break, or there is a horizontal line, and with the text down here, right? So it provides you the space, plus we have a horizontal row line here, right? So that's basically the HR tag. What we can also like use here are some del tag, which means that we can strike it here. So just saves it, and you can see on the text there is a strike. So basically that's what we can do with the del. So previously we can still use strike tags as well, but I prefer that this is a new HTML5 provided to Dell, which is more efficient and a more better way of doing it, right? So this is basically the Dell tag. Next we can use here the something which is known as B. So if I just try to save it, and you can see now the text is bold again, right? So that's very much similar to, we can do all the stuff with using styling, which is a CSS, which we can see in our next course, right? So we can do a bunch of stuff with the HTML5. We can also use here a semantic tag, which HTML provides. So that is something like a strong tag. So let's give it here and saves it. And you can see now it will also bold the text, right? So these are the semantic tags, and these are the tags which B is for bold, which is basically outdated and decrypted, right? So I recommend that there's so many things which you can do with the HTML5 also, but I prefer that style.css is a bunch of big properties, and you can use it for your big projects and do styling for it, right? So this is basically not the convention tags, but we can use it, right? Okay, so I believe this is much for the typography and some very basic tags for it. So let's look at for the next stuff here. So I'm gonna go underneath that, and let's do here is, and one thing I want to just tell you that it's basically a block level. So remember that the paragraphs are the block level, right? So what actually it means that if you can add the text, so it will not put you on the same line. So basically these are the block level, right? So and it will cover the whole space of the paragraph depending on your amount of words you have. So this is all, P is basically the block level, right? Okay, next we have is we can also use some links here. So let's give it here the comment for this. So you have a multiple option for giving the comments. Like if I just type here external link, and you can do is here, let's just keep that and highlight it, the whole complete words, and you can press Control and the question mark, and this will also do the comments, right? For that, this is a shortcut that VS Code provides you. All right, so for the external links, like we can do here is, let's suppose if I have an anchor tag here, and so A is basically for the anchor tag which can navigate us to some pages, right? So in case of the external, right, a link, I just want to give here http://google.com, and it's right here Google, and as long as I saves it, and you can see now we have a Google, and once I click on it, this one move me to the Google page, right? So this is also the one of the feature that the anchor anchor tag provides us to route from one page, right? So this is basically the external link, like we are moving from the outside of this page, like we don't have any file or page created inside our document where I want to route, but we can do one more stuff here, like for the internal links, like let's create an internal link here. So I'm going to create here an internal link and comment this, right? So let's create here a file. Let's give it here the index, or not the index actually. So basically, why I give it the name of index.html, because index is basically your main home file. Like if you're uploading file on the server, right? You want to upload this on some specific domain. So you need to create here the main root file, which is index. So that's the main reason that I created index.html. So right, if I have another page, like let's suppose create here example.html, and I just create here a very basic HTML tags. So you can use here shift and the exclamation mark and tab this, right? So this is going to create here the basic boilerplate for the HTML. And if I just do here example, let's give it here example page. All right, so I just created that, and now if I move to the index.html, now for the internal links, let's do here a stuff like if I just create here anchor tag, and if I just give it here a name of example.html and saves it. Now what actually it does is, let's give it here the let's give it here internal link, example page. Let's try it. So if I saves it, and if I just try to click on the example page, so this is gonna route me to the another page, which includes in our files, right? So which includes in our root directory, so that means that it's the it's the internal ring, right? So this is basically the two differences between that, right? Next, we can also add the image on the browser. So if I just create here an image tag, and let's give it here find some image from my directory. So I'm going to go to my desktop and let's grab some image. So I'm going to grab here this image, and let's put that into your desktop, the directory that you have. So I have on my desktop, and let's go here and paste it. All right, so once I have the image here, and let's go inside your browser and see. So all right, so let's give it here the source, which is on my root directory. So I just need to give here js.jpg, and if I just saves it, and you can see now we have our image, which is actually not in our on the same size. So in order to make it like, we can also change its width and height. So we have another attribute. So let's give it here the width of 200 pixels. So let's save it, and you can see now we have our image, right? So that's how we can do this. So I'm using here break to put that to the down to the links, right? Okay, so this is for the image. So we can also give it this is basically the local image, right? So just want to comment this out. All right, so next we can also use some remote image. All right, so let's give it here image source, and you can see there is an attribute with the name of alt, which actually means let's give it here image image. And if in that case, if I don't have the right image, if the image is broken, you can see now we can also see that there is some image exists with some preview, right? So that's the main feature that alt provides, that if the image is broken, you can easily understand that there is some image present here, right? So that's also the feature of the alt tag, right? Okay, now I'm going to use here some remote image. So let's find it from so remote image is actually that you can grab from some source. So let's suppose if I just want to go to the unsplash.com, which is a very perfect image which can provide you any random images. So let's grab some source for the image. So I'm going to find here is let's go and search for the nature and go to so let's go here and unsplash image source. And let's grab this. So you need to go to the source.unsplash.com and just grab this link, right, and paste it right into it. And if I save it, and you can see now we have our image, right? So that's the as long as I can refresh this, you might can see some different images. Yeah, so basically this is a very useful unsplash.com with so basically this is the source, the name of the image, and this has the size of the image. So if I just want to give it like 300 by 200 and saves it, and you can see we can also decrease the size of the image, right? So this is basically the remote image. All right, so that's for the remote image. All right, so I just want to create another file for that, so we can look for now for the tables and the list. So let's create here another file with the name of lists underscore table.html. All right, so let's do here is, and right click on it, open with the live server, and most probably I just want to close that all and just paste this link here. And all right, so we have an empty file. Let's give it here the title, give it the name of lists and table. So I can save it, and now if I just try to refresh this, you can see now we have a list and the tables Let's go inside the body and give it here. So first look for the unordered list. Alright, so in case of the unordered list, I'm going to give here the UL, which is basically the unordered list, and inside that I'm going to give here list items. So list items, let's give it the name of item 1, right? If I just try to save it, you can see here the disk, right? These are basically the bullets, and if I just want to grab this all and just paste it 3 more times and just give it the item 1 and item 2, and if I just try to save it, and you can see now we have our items, right, with the bullets. So item 1, item 2, and item 3, right? So I can do here one more stuff, like if I just want to give it a style and give it here the list style none and saves it, and now you can see the bullets remove actually with the style, right? So you can also do that stuff with the unordered list, right? So now let's look for the ordered list. So for the order list, we can give here OL for the order list, and let's give it here LIs. Let's grab from the top and just paste it here. And you can see now we have our order list with the numbers, which are 1 and 2 and 3. So we can also do here one more stuff here, like if I just want to give here type of A, and you can see now we have A, B, C, and if I want to that in the uppercase, I can just simply do here capital A, and this is going to bring the alphabets, right? So the order. So the good feature that VS Code provides you, that if I just want to give here with the help of Emmet, if I give here li cross 4, so that means, and tab this out, so this is going to give me all the 4 LIs, and now I can place here the item 1, and just like that, item 2, let's give it the item 2, 3, and 4. So this is also very good stuff that your VS Code provides you, right? So this is all done through the Emmet. Alright, so we can also do here a nested list, like let's create here a nested list. Command this, and down here we can do here is let's give it a UL, and let's create here LIs 2 times and give it the item 1, item 2. And now inside the UL, and now we have our another UL, that means it's a nested. So let's inside that, let's give it here li cross 3 and give it the item 1, item 2, item 3, and saves it. And now you could see that now we have our item 1 and item 2, and now inside that we have the nested items, which are 1, 2, and 3, right? So with different styles, you can see now we have the bullets, and now here we have the disks. So this is basically the major difference that we can use for that, right? So this is for the nested list. Now let's go and jump to the tables. So tables are very much useful in HTML5 because that provides a lot much things easier for you to understand. So in case of the table, we have a very basic table tags, and inside table tags we have the table heads, which basically consist of some rows. So each table head has table rows. That means that we can use some headings. So let's suppose if I just want to give here headings for 3 headings, so I just give it here th cross 3 times and give it here ID, name, and the email. And you could see that now we have our 3 headings here, ID and name and email. So you must need to remember the structure, like we have a table tag which consists of the opening and the closing tags, and inside the table heads we have some rows. So we have 3 headings inside that. Now in order to create the table body, which consists of the table data, so if I just want to create the table body, all you need to do means that we have to assign the values for individual columns. So what I'm going to do here is let's create here table body, and inside the table body again we need to create here a table row, and each table row have 3 data inside it. Let's give it here ID of 1 and give it the name of Ali, and let's give it here @gmail.com, saves it, and now you can see now we have the names in, underneath that, right? So we can create more more data next to it. So let's do it 3 more times and just change it to ID2. Let's give it here the name of John. So john@gmail.com, give it 3 and give it the abnation and abnation@gmail.com, right? So these are all the stuff that we can do in the table. So you could see that how much easier and how much flexible it is, right? So what we can do here, very basic styling, like if I want to increase the width of the size of the table, we can give it width of 500 pixels, and if I just save it, and now you could see that we can have this width increases, right? So again, you can do some styling which is more effective way, which we can see in the next CSS Crash Course, right? But I believe you just understand the basic structure, how a table is created, right? So this is a very basic way of creating the tables, right? All right, so now let's look for the forms, which are very important, which is a very important feature that HTML5 provides you. So let's create a separate file for it. So let's create here forms.html. All right. So let's create here a very basic boilerplate for this, and let's look for the forms. All right, so inside the body, I'm going to create here a tag which is known as form tag, right? So which contains some action. So which action means that when we submit the form, it takes some action, and that action is done through some backend language. Like if we want to submit the form, so this is going to pass the data, and all the fields that we have will create. We can insert the data in the database, which all done through some backend programming language, which is not in that course, but we normally use action for you can say that we can give that action to the server to route and to do some action for storing the data, for inserting the data, updating the data. So basically we can add the action, which is basically not in our case. We don't need that, so just remove that. All right. So inside the form tag, I'm going to give here tags which is known as div, which is a divisions, and inside that we can also get here a label. Let's give it here a label for, and label for is basically when we have to place the ID. What actually it means that if I just create here input type, if I just want to create here fields of simple input type of text, you can simply do with the help of image. You can use here input colon text, or you can do here is simply create here the input and press enter, or you have to write here input type equal to text and simply close that, and that's fine. If I just try to save it, so you could see that we can do here is first I need to open it with a live server. So basically by default it open up on my Edge, but I need to open up on my Chrome, so I'm going to paste the URL here, right? So don't be confused with that. So there we go. So we can see the input field, right? Okay, so for the label we need to place here, let's suppose if I just give here a name, and if I just try to save it, and you can see now it will define the name of the input field that we are using. So basically this is for the name, right? So you can use here name, and as I explained that if I just want to give here a label for equal to, let's suppose if I give it here name, and let's give it here ID of name and saves it, and if I just try to click on here, you could see that now it will focus that, right? So but if I just want to remove it from here, and if I try to click on this label, and you see nothing happens on the border, so this basically gives you the focus. So that's the main reason that why we use for, and the ID it should be same, right? Okay, so next we are going to create here the email. We can also create here the div. So let's give it here the label and give it the email, and down here, so for the in case of the image, so you can use input colon email, and just saves it, and let's give it here name of email. So basically these are the names. So we have another attribute with the name of name. So this again is used for storing the data. So we give it we pass this name to some specific conditions and pass to the Ajax or through simple PHP and pass the data through controller, whatever the backend language you are using. So that's where we can use the name, right? So in case just similar to, we can also use here name. All right, so let's give it here ID of email, saves it. And actually the email provides you the feature that if I just try to input type of email, and if there is some submit button, so it will stop that. It actually tells the browser that it should be a proper email, like it should be something like @gmail.com. Otherwise it will provide you the error or from the client side, which is actually you can also do through some backend validation as well, but this is a very basic HTML5 provides you, right? So you can also use here something known as required and saves it. So basically at this case the field becomes required, right? So this is also you can use. Alright, so next we can also use something like for the messaging in a large width size. So we can do here is you can use text area. So let's create here message and message. So text area and saves it, and as long as I type text area and I just need to remove these columns and the rows, and you can see that it's still in the, you can also drag that and make your size depending on the text you write. So you can also drag that also. So this is basically larger width, and you can also specify proper columns and the rows, so you can increase that. So that means that it will increase the width, and in order to increase the size from the column wise, you can also do that, right? So this is basically the feature that it provides you text area, right? So next we can do here is, all right, so let's do for the next step, which is the select box. So selection select. So for the select and case, we can use here div. So let's give it here the select option for the gender. So first look for the gender, and each select option must have the options. So just underneath that, actually I need to place that a label first. So let's give it here a label for gender, and let's give it a gender, ID of gender. So inside select option we have some options as well. So let's tab this on, and let's give it a male, and give it the name of male. All right, and next to it we can also give here an option for the female. So let's give it a female and female. All right, saves it, and now you can see we have a select options to select the gender, right? So that's the good feature. So basically from the value perspective we can store the data, right? Okay, so next we can also use here some numbers, like if I want to give here div, and let's give here a label for the age, and inside here I'm going to give here input type of number. So we can also do here, like we can increase the numbers according to that, right? So this is basically a very HTML5 provides you the type of the numbers, right? So this is for the numbers. Next we can also use here dates. So let's give it here the label for date. So colon date with the help of emit. Saves it. So this is basically the date type, right? If I want to place some dates, you can use here date, month, and the year. So basically this is the month, right? So this is the date, and this is the year, right? So this is what the input HTML5 provides you. So you can change the date or depending on that, right? All right, so let's look for the we can also use some radios. So let's do here div. So let's go give it here choose restaurant, and give it here for food, or we can use here choose vehicle, right? Just give it the example. So in case of vehicle we can use here vehicle, and So inside that, I'm going to use here input type of radio and tab this out. You can see we have an option. So for the first option that I want to give here, I need to give it a name of vehicle and ID of vehicle, and we can also give it the value, which is basically saved in the database if we want to do some dynamic work. So for that case, I'm going to use here bike, and just grab this and paste it down here too. So first give here bike, and the second one should be the car, right? Saves it. So here we can do is let's gonna do here is you can select one option at once. So basically these are the radio, so you can't select both of the options. So in such cases we use radio. So I can't I can't choose both of them. I can only choose one at single time. So this is basically where radio used, right? So we have another thing which is known as checked, but there is another attribute that it provides that if I want one of it to be checked, so we can use here something known as checked and tab, and you can see now that this bullet is selected with the help of checked, right? So we can also do that. So last thing that we can use here is, let's place here some check boxes. So let's give it a label for, and let's choose here food. So give it here choose restaurants, and down underneath that we can use here input type of checkbox and name equal to food. Let's give it a food, and let's give it here the McDonald's. And let's give it here the next one to be KFC, which I love. Alright, so just saves it, and you can see now we have a check boxes, so we can choose any one of them. So we can also use here another attribute which is value, just like to save data. So for this case I need to just simply give KFC, and for this case I can use here McDonald's. Alright, so this is basically how I can do, just like we can check in that case which is ticked, and now in case for that we can use here something which is known as checked again, right? Saves it, and you can see one of is already checked, right, by default. So we can use that feature. All right, so we can use here another thing, what actually it's right. Okay, so we can also use here submits button. Let's create here input and colon submit, and you can see now we can also get the submits, and there is no any value, which means that we want to show the text on the button. So we can use here submit value equals submit. So whatever I type here, it should appear on the button, right? So we can also create here a button. So let's create here button type equal to the submit. So but the only difference is that we don't need to give it here inside the value. We can also pass just after the closing and the opening bracket. So this is how we can use. So I think so this is really much for the form submission. All right, so we have done a lot of things for the HTML5. So in the next section, I'm going to explain you rest of all the things. So I'm going to take some short break, so I will be right back. All right, guys, so welcome back here. So now we are going to discuss about the block level and the inline, right? So there's few tags which use block and the inline. So that's what I'm going to discuss in this video. So let's create a file for this. So give it the name of block_inline, right? So block_inline.html. all right, so just create a very simple boilerplate and set that to be block versus inline, right? All right, so just open up with the with the live server. So click on the live server, and this is going to open up on your Google Chrome. Mine is open on the Edge, so I'm going to paste my URL right up here, right? Okay, so here I'm going to explain to you what is basically the difference between the block and the inline. So in case of the block and the inline, so first I'm going to discuss about the block. So let's give it the block and just comment this, right? All right. So there are multiple tags which use here block and inline. So just like paragraphs use the block level, and if you talk about the inline, so anchor tags and spans, so there are few tags which use the inline. So what is the difference? So let's just look at the example first. So you can see if I have a paragraph tags, and let's give it the lorem 20, and you see that we have a paragraphs, and next to it let's create here another paragraph and give it the tab 20, and you notice you see that there is that it will cover the complete width of the page, right? So and the next tag, which is the paragraph, so it will knock it to the next line, right? So and there is a, by default there is a space or a margin between them. So basically block will take the entire width of the page and knocks the next tag or the next text to the next line, right? So basically this is the difference between the block level, right? So as long as you can add the paragraph tag, so it will knock it to the, it will pushes the text to the next line, right? So this is basically the block level, right? So in case of the inline, if I just want to give you an example for the inline, so let's give it the inline and comment this. So let's give it here the example for the anchor tag, and if I just want to give you here, let's give it a link 1, and it saves it, and you see that we have a link 1 appears. But if I just try to create here another anchor tag with the different with the same element, all right, so if I just want to give you here link 2, all right, so basically there I push hash, which means it's not linked, right? It will route to the same page, so we use hash. All right, so you see that it will push it to the next to it, right? Very much adjacent to the, pushes everything towards the right. So basically this is the inline. So there are few tags which basically covers which will not cover the complete width of the page. It will push everything towards the right. So just want to give you another example with some styling. This course is not for the styling, but just want to give you an example. Like if I just want to give here the style just inside the paragraph tag, and just want to show you the difference. So if I just give here style equal to, let's give it here a border of 1 pixel solid and color of red, right? So if I just saves it, and you could see that it will actually I don't want to give it the color of red, but it's fine, okay? So you could see that it covers the entire page, right? Entire width of the page, right? And just like if I just want to give it the same for the anchor tag, let's give it here style of 1 pixel solid red, and if I saves it, and actually what's wrong here is style equal to border. All right, so if I saves it, and you can see now it just I haven't covered the whole complete width of the browser or the page, so it only covers that the whole entity remains, right? The whole text. So it will enclose everything for a specific link, and it doesn't cover the complete width of the page. So just very much similar to what we have for our link 2. If I just copy that and give it the style, all right, so you can see that it will enclose separately, and it haven't covered the whole complete width of the page. So that is basically the main difference. So if I want to show you, if I just use here something which is known as span tag, okay, I just want to leave it for here, and we can discuss in the next, like in the next file. I'm going to create a very empty file for this. So this is basically, this is the difference between the block and the inline. All right, so now let's look for the next, which is some IDs and the classes and the span. So let's create here a file with the name of let's give it here the div class id span.html, and just create here the div id and class, and let's give it here the div ids class and the span. All right, so that's what we are going to discuss. So open it the live server, and So let's just paste it here. All right. Okay, so here I'm going to explain to you the differences between that, right? So let's create here a very basic body, and inside that create here a main div. And I'm going to give here an ID, which is very simple. You just need to put that ID, and let's give it here header. All right, so inside that I'm going to give here h1, and let's give it here heading 1. And let's next to it give it the my web app, right? And let's create here underneath that. I just need to create here unordered list with the list items with some links, and give it the name of home. So if I just want to paste it 3 times, just press Control Shift and the down key in order to do that. So this is basically a shortcut for it. So home, about, and contact. All right. So let's gonna give it the name class for the links. Next, I want to give here an ID for the about. Should be smaller. And let's give it here paragraph tag and florum 50. All right, so down here just need to create here an ID with the context. So here you can do one more stuff with the help of if you're using VS Code, which provides the image, which makes your code much easier to type for the HTML. So for the ID we use hash, and for classes we use dot. So if you're using ID, so let's give it a hash, the number symbol, and the contact, and tab this. So this is going to write you the div with the ID of contact, right? So you can see how easier it is. So let's give it here h3 for the contact, and let's give it here some text down here and saves it. All right, so this is basically the simple contact, and let's give it the last thing that we need is the contact ID. So let's give it here the div into, you can use here like that way too, but the good way is that you can use hash with the ID of footer. So here I'm going to use here 2020 web app. All right, so, or you can write copyright 2020. So whatever you can write here, it's fine completely. Okay, now I'm going to explain you the differences between the class. So basically IDs are for specific thing, like if you want to select some, or you want to do styling for a single ID. So it will bring things a lot much easier when you're doing CSS, or you are using jQuery or DOM for selecting as a selectors. So basically what actually it means in a simple words, that header, most of the website have one header. So it's always a good approach to use IDs, because it is basically unique, and it actually don't means unique, but it's you could say that you can use IDs as for a specific purpose. So classes are something which you can use twice or many times, which can do repeatedly the same thing. All right, so let's give you an example with the style. So let's create here a very basic style underneath that. So don't worry about it. So if you have no idea about it, we can cover up in the CSS topic, right? So let's give it here a class of section, or you could say that what I give it the cards. All right, so let's give it a border 1 pixel solid red, and background give it the hash f3, and let's give it the padding of 15 pixels, and let's give it the margin bottom of 10 pixels. All right, so it should be double T, right? All right, so saves it. And if I want to use that class, all I need to do here is, if I just want to, as long as I'm using those classes, let's give it a class equal to, and if I just saves it, and you can see now we have a class, right? So I can use classes twice. So as long as I'm using classes, you could see that CSS reflect, right? So you can have the multiple classes for if you're using the similar thing. But in case of the ID, what I'm going to do here is, you can also do here is, let's do for the header. So for the header, if I just want to give it the background and text of white, all right. So basically you could see that we have a single header, or for the footer, if I just want to give it the footer too, and you saves it, and you could see that we have our footer and the header. So if I just need to give some spaces, padding, so you could add the padding 20 pixels. So basically we use IDs for our specific sections, like the header and the footer. Usually most of the website have the specific header and the footer. Most of the 90% of the website have single header and the footer, but you can use more headers or footer. Doesn't mean that you can't use, but so the basic concept is that you can use header IDs as a specific purpose, but for card you can use multiple things, right? So now next I'm going to explain to you about the spans. So spans are basically the inline level, right? So what actually it means that if I just use here, if I just cut this out and let's put here some span tag and put that this, so this is not going to show me any particular effect. So let's give it a style of background, make that F4 saves it, or I believe, yeah, and let's do is right. So you could see that now it's highlighted. So rather it should give me some, it pops it to the down. So basically it's a inline level. So that's why it's not pushes everything to the down, or just like the paragraph tags. So this is basically the main feature of the span, right? So basically this is the inline level, right? So this is very much it for this concept about the classes and the span and the IDs, right? So in the last section that we are left with, we have to cover up some semantics, and that's what we are going to explain in the next video. But before quitting this video, we can also use something which is known as entities. So just like a copyright, if I just want to show you, I write here copyright, and if I saves it, so most of the video websites you see there is C written. So how you want to do it, you just need to put here some entities like copy and just put that semicolon, and you could see that this C is basically a symbol, right? So you can also use one more thing here. If I just want to show you right after here, let's create a div, and if I want to show something which is like 1 less than 2, so I can use something which is known as @end LT and saves it. So this is going to do the same stuff, which is a less than. In case of the greater than, I can use GT. So this is basically, you can do some angle symbols, right? So that's how you can use something which is known as entities. So again, there are a lot of entities available, but I'm just want to make this video very much specific. You can learn things like W3 schools, there are other good reference websites, but I just want to give you an idea so you could understand what actually an entities are, right? So the next video is going to be the last one for this. So hopefully you learn something new from here, right? So let's take it for the next section or the next video. So I'm going to take Alright guys, so the last thing that we are going to do in this whole video is about the semantics, right? So this is going to be the last video. So before I should start with the semantics.html, so you need to create a file with the name of semantics.html and make sure that you have your boilerplate, which I've explained in a lot of videos, and you just need to click on the right click on the open with the live server, and that's how you're going to open up your blank page, right? So basically semantic HTML elements are those that clearly describe the meaning in a human and machine readable way. So if you use some header tags or footer tags and article tags, so they have basically the defined meaning because they accurately describe the purpose of the element and the type of the content that is inside them. So just like you use here, if I want to give you an example, if I'm going to use here the header tag inside here, so you see this is the opening and the closing tag, and so basically this is the semantic tag, which basically describes you about the about some specific position, or you could say at the headers. So if I want to give you an example on Google, so if I just want to write here semantics image, and if I'm gonna go to my Google, so let's type here Semantics HTML, and if I just want to open up that, and if I click on here, you could see, so there you could see that the first one, basically the header, as usual we have a single header, we have a single footer, and we have a nav bar with some sections and articles, and a sidebar and an aside. So basically these are the semantics which which defines a section in a document. All right, so let's start with some very basic semantics tags. So there are a lot of semantics tags that you're going to use, so you can definitely visit the different websites or some articles where you can see. You have to search more for that, but I'm going to explain you very basics and most usually used. So let's jump and start here. So the first one, which is the header, if I just want to give the H1, so which definitely defines the header, so let's give and write here my website, and soon I just write here website. So basically this is the semantic, right? So basically this is the header. All right, so next we also have something which is a nav bar. If I'm going to place a very basic nav bar, which has usually the nav bar have the links inside, which looks very much better because we have not using any CSS, so that's how it shows. That looks very weird, but basically these are the semantic tags which, with the help of classes and the ID, which I have explained in my previous video, so we can make things a lot much appealing and look wise better. All right, so next we have a nav, and inside nav I'm going to bring some links inside it. So let's give it, the first one should be the home. All right, so let's give it the name of home, and I'm going to press Control Shift, the Shift and the Alt, and press down, and that's how you can add the duplication and easily add the shortcut for adding some different HTML, right? So that's really helpful for your for shorten your HTML or make things shortcuts and make HTML right faster. All right, so and also the image, which provides a lot much feature. So next we have another very commonly used right after the nav. I'm going to use some articles, and so inside articles you can write many sections. So previously what HTML provides you, that we have the divs, and with the help of divs we have to define the classes and the ID, which makes crawler, Google crawler or document difficult to understand the structure. But I believe with the help of HTML5 things become a lot much easier. And now we have our article. Inside we can have multiple sections. So let's first add the first section. Let's give it the lorem text 20. So basically this is the section 1. We can have multiple sections inside the article. So let's give it another one and give it the lorem of 20, and you can see that we can add as much sections we want inside the article. All right, so I hope it makes sense. So next we can also have a sidebar. With the help of CSS you can do a lot of stuff. So just I explained that every individual section could have a class. So if I just want to give here a class, let's suppose give it the article -2. So with the help of that class we can do some multiples. We can add the CSS for the individual sections. So I also explain a very basic example inside your the example which I given in your block and the inline, a very basic HTML. So so you can do some stuff like that, and you can easily see that it's basically a block level, right? So that's I explained already in the next video, in the previous last 2 videos. All right. All right, so something which is known as aside that you've seen on the diagram. So we can use here aside, which has again the closing and the opening brackets, and inside we can set this is a sidebar. All right, so this is basically very much similar to that, and we can also use some images. So right after here I'm gonna use here something semantic which is known as figure. We can add some images. So let's add some image with the name of js.jpg, which I already have inside my directory. So you see that we can place the image. We can also see some attributes which includes different width and the height. So just for now I'm going to give it the 200. So just give it the width of 200 and just give it the alt of image. Already explained, if my image is broken, so this is going to show some kind of icon to show that your image is broken. And lastly, the most basic, which is a footer. So each website usually have a single header or footer. So basically the semantics help us really easier to understand the structure of your HTML, right? So inside that I'm going to create a very basic created by, let's give it the hash, and let's write here AB Nation programmer saves it, and that's how you could see how much similar and very easier it's use that, right? So I hope it makes sense to all that how we can use basic semantics for the HTML. There are a lot much other, so you can use them, and you can visit different websites like W3 Schools, and there are something which is known as address, so you can also use address, and something which is known as we use the footer, yeah, we've used nav and a side. So you can also use something which is known as fig caption, which can give you the caption of the image. So that's also you can use. So you can visit different reference website for that, but I recommend W3 Schools. Is really cool website. You can learn a lot about that. So I think so. This is just usually I believe that I have covered up almost every part of the HTML. If few things are missing, you can definitely learn from that, but usually these are all the basics. So I hope you learn a lot from here and learn something new. So if you really learn something and you understand, so please don't forget to leave a like, and that's it, and I want to see you in the next video.